Hi, I'm Martin McGrath from Financial Edge Group, and today I want to talk to you about a question we actually received through our social medias, which is, should I A, invest, B, pay off my mortgage, or C, put some money into super with some extra money I've got? We specialise in helping people get themselves set up for retirement, and this is exactly the kind of questions that we like answering, so happy to delve into this today. So, it kind of depends. Is it a lump sum? And is it 20, 50 grand, and how much is that? Or is it a regular amount per month? Is it $500 a month or $1,000 a month? That does kind of depend if it's a one-off versus a regular. And the reason being is that depends what you want to do with those funds and if it's going to be there forever or if we're trying to build something more longer term. I'm a big believer in building something longer term and trying to put regular money into something. And it might be that we start with a lump sum. We might take 5 or 10,000, put that into something, and then put some more money in there regularly every month, $200 a month or $500 a month in that space. So if it's a large lump sum and it's a one-off and it's not expected to really want more money, again, it really depends probably upon the size then. If it is smaller, probably in the vicinity of 10, 20, maybe up to 50 grand, I would probably generally favor the mortgage just for some flexibility. But if that reduction to the mortgage can perhaps free up some extra cash flow, because now that you can pay less off the mortgage because it's lower, maybe it's close to effectively where the mortgage is gone, and that's now freeing up $400 or $500 a week or a couple $1,000 a month, that's when we go and set up something regular on top, is probably my thoughts in terms of that. So if it is smaller, typically like sub $50,000, I'd probably generally favor the mortgage and kind of then use that as a catalyst to then set up something more regularly. Now then it's questionable, is it an investment? Should I go buy some shares or an ETF or a portfolio, or should I put that into my super? That is also kind of a depends question. It really depends, I think, on two things, which is one, when do I think I might need to get access to that money? If it's, well, I'm putting some money aside now, but we really want to upgrade the car in a few years' time, well, there's no point putting that into super because unless we're already over 60, we're not getting that money back out. But if it's, well, I'm already in my 40s and 50s and it's probably don't really need it, it's more for the long term and I want to boost my retirement, well then super's a big place to put that money. So the reason being is that when we put money into super, obviously A, it goes in as an investment. It's important which super fund and how it's set up and whether it's aggressive in growth and shares or whether it's more conservative. That is a big important thing. But more so in terms of the way that it goes in and some of the tax concessions that you can get when you put extra money into super. And they may be personal tax saving as a concessional contribution, and that's at your marginal tax rate, which for most people will be 34.5%, but could be higher at 39% or 47%. So if it's a case of, well, I'm putting in $500 a month, and both me and my partner are doing that, that's 12 grand a year. If that's set up the right way, you could easily be getting yourself $3,000 or $4,000 back in tax on that every year. So that's what I refer to as return on investment, an ROI. So if I took that 12 grand, paid it off my mortgage, I might save myself 2 or 3%. Better than nothing, but it's 2 or 3%. If I take that 12 grand and put that into super, I potentially am going to get two benefits. I'm going to save myself a fair whack of tax, potentially 30 to 40% ROI, plus the money is then going to be invested. If that's invested in a portfolio, conservative might be getting 3 or 4%, balanced 5 or 6, or more growth orientated, potentially 7, 8, 9, even 10% return. That's on top of my tax savings. So potentially that one-off lump sum or in 1 year, between tax savings and investment returns, you could be getting 30 to 50% return on that money compared to against your mortgage at 2 or 3%. So really super and investments turbocharge that together to get you a much superior return on that money. Now again, that needs to factor in and fit in your whole circumstances, because if you're 25 and trying to buy your first house or something like that, that's a great return, but it may not help you buy your first house. If you're 55 and the mortgage is gone, or you're trying to get the mortgage down, that kind of ROI is really attractive, knowing that at 60, I potentially can get access to some of that money back out again and maybe clear my mortgage that way. So there's a few different strategies I'm putting here together. We've got a lot of videos talking about this stuff, tax in super and how to save it on the way in, and should you pay off your mortgage, should you put money into super. But coming to that question originally, should you pay off your mortgage, should you invest it, should you put it into super, to kind of build some frameworks. If it's a smaller lump sum and you think you're likely going to need it in the next couple of years, I'd favor the mortgage, would be my default. Because you can access it, you can redraw it, it's still saving you money, and that's the way to go there. Hopefully that's a catalyst to start some investments, but that would be my default in that space. Investments, when do I pick investments over super? And remember, super is an investment. It's just an investment that has some tax savings, but also some restrictions to access. So I'd pick investments over super depending upon when I might need to access that money back. And if I want to access that money before the age of 60, that's when I'd favor investments. So if that's money that you're in your 40s and you want to invest somewhere and you might need it in 5 or 10 years' time to take a trip with the kids or do a big trip when you turn 50, investments is where that money should sit, not in super, because we can't access it. There's no point having $1 million in super when we're 50. If we need it, we're better to have less in super and some outside that we can access and live off. So I'd favor investments if I'm going to need that money before 60. And for a lot of people, that's the case. Otherwise, super is typically going to be the best ROI in that equation because of the tax savings and the investment returns. But it's important that factors into your personal circumstances. So each of those answers could be correct with the right circumstances. What's going to get you the best ROI typically is super, but it needs to fit into circumstances. So if you want to reach out, have a chat, feel free to at financialedgegroup.com.au.